5.3, we're going to continue talking about writing equations of lines, but this time we'll talk about how to write an equation of a line when you're given 2 points. So how would you write an equation of a line if all you have are 2 of the points? So for example, you're trying to write an equation of a line that extends through the point -3, 6 and the point 1, -2. Now neither of these are y-intercepts. So we know for certain that we cannot use slope-intercept form, but we also don't have the slope here. So that's actually going to be our first step here. If we want to write an equation of a line given 2 points and we want to use point-slope form, which remember is y2 minus y1 equals m times x2 minus x1, the first thing we'll have to do is figure out what the slope is. So we use our formula for slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and we use our dolphin jumping, so we've got -2 minus 6 over 1 minus a -3. This will give us a -8 on the top, and 1 plus 3 would give us a 4. Now don't forget, you always want to simplify every fraction, including slope. And this will simplify to -2. This will be much easier to plug into our equation than this will be. So here we have our point-slope form, and now we know what the slope is. But how do we know if we should choose one of these points or both of these points? The problem is, if we use both of these points, we will fill in both x's and both y's, and now that we know our slope, we'd also be filling in our slope. So we can't plug all of this information in, or we won't have any x's left to write an equation. So we need to choose only one of these 2 points. We're going to use, remember this is called point-slope form, so we need a point and a slope. The slope part is easy. But we need to continue to have these y's and x's here for our equation. So we can choose either point. It does not matter which point we choose because both of these points lie on the line. So I always suggest you choose the one that seems simpler. Now in this case, they're both, one of them is a negative in each of them, and the numbers are not very large, so it really doesn't matter. So let's just go with this one. So y minus the y value, which is 6, equals the slope times x minus the x value, which is -3. So y minus 6 equals, distribute this, -2x, double negative here we want to fix first, -2 times +3, which would be -6. And we want to remember to finish this up by getting y alone, so we add 6 to both sides, and we get y equals -2x plus 0, or just leave it blank. So we would have to simplify that 0 anyway, so we just leave it. So the slope is -2, which is what we thought, and the y-intercept in this case would be 0, because there is no y-intercept. So these are the steps that we're going to put on our Cornell note sheet, what we just did here. So writing the equation of a line given 2 points here. The first thing we did was calculate the slope. Number 1, calculate the slope using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Once you have calculated the slope, then you need to remember, this is very important, choose one point. Only one point. Not both points, choose only one point. And step 3, you're going to use point-slope form. y2 minus y1 equals m times x2 minus x1. So you're just plugging it in, and if you need the steps for that, they are right here. Okay? So it starts out different, calculating the slope and choosing one point, and then we go up here and basically follow these steps here. So you can go like that. And these are the same steps you're going to use for the rest of the problems in these notes. So what I'd like you to do is try examples 1 through 4 on your own. They're the same steps every time. Please push pause here and try those right now. Okay, so in example 1, we want to calculate the slope first. Number 1, calculate the slope. So we get -2 minus 2 over 3 minus 0. This will give us -4, and 3 minus 0 would give us 3. So we get a slope of -4/3. Choosing a point here, anytime you have a 0, that means that will be a little easier to plug in because of the 0. So we're going to choose that one point, and I would highly suggest you circle the point that you're going to choose so you don't mix them up halfway in between. So circle the one you want to use. That's step 2, choose a point. And step 3, then we go to plugging it into the equation. Y minus the y value, which is 2, equals the slope times the quantity x minus the x value, which is 0. And that will be very nice for us because we won't have to distribute the -4/3 to 0. Well, we do have to do it, but it won't challenge us. So we've got y minus 2 equals -4/3 times x, and -4/3 times 0, which will give us 0. So you don't even need to put plus 0 in there. You can if you want, but you don't need to. And then we need to continue to get y alone, so we add 2 to both sides, and we get y equals -4/3 x plus 2. Now, if you stopped here or didn't try this one on your own, please stop now and try one on your own. You will learn more if you try them on your own first. So let's see what happened on number 2. Calculating the slope. -2 minus 0, minus 0, over 2 minus a -4. So we get -2 minus 0, which is of course going to stay -2, and these two double negatives, we make it happy, and we get 2 plus 4 is 6. We have to reduce this. You must reduce this. So when we divide the top and bottom by 2, we get -1/3. So there's your slope. Choose a point. Again, this point has a 0 in it, so that will prove to be the easier one to plug in. So if we choose that point, then step 3 then is to go into the equation. Y minus the y value, which is 0, equals the slope times x minus the x value, which is -4. This will drop out, so we get y equals, distribute this, we get -1/3 x. Make this happy first, or add the opposite, however. And -1/3 times 4. Just throw this 4 over 1. And then envision -1/3 times 4 over 1. -1 times 4 would be -4. And 3 times 1 would be 3. You do not need to use your calculator for this. You should know how to do this on your own. And that's your equation. We solve for y. There's your slope. There's your y-intercept. Number 3. Start with your slope again. So, -12 minus 8 over 2 minus 4. -12 minus 8 would give us -20 over 2 minus 4, which is -2. When we simplify this, this will give us a +10. Now be very careful with your signs. If you're off by any of these signs here, it'll throw your slope off and then throw the rest of the equation off. So there's our slope. When we come to this point where we choose a point, I might choose this point simply because the numbers are slightly smaller. Well, the 8 is smaller than the 12. But it will not matter which point you choose because you should get the same answer both ways if you're doing your math correctly. So we're going to use this point. If you use the other one, then wait till the end and see if you got the same answer that I did. But we've got y minus the y value, which is 8, equals 10 times x minus the x value, which is 4. Distribute the 10. We get y minus 8 equals 10x minus 40. And we still need to solve for y, so we add 8 to both sides. y equals 10x minus 32. And finally, number 4. Actually, let me show you the work if you chose the other point. So now if we choose this point, I'll show this. Y minus a negative 12 equals 10 times x minus 2. So this we would make happy, so we get y plus 12. This will give us 10x minus 20. So it looks different. However, when you subtract 12 from both sides, we get y equals 10x minus 32. So it doesn't matter which point you choose. That's why we just choose the one that seems the easiest for some reason. So whatever, whichever point you chose. Number 4, same steps still. Start by finding the slope, negative 6 minus 6, over 3 minus a negative 3. So on the top, negative 6 plus a negative 6 will give us negative 12. 3 minus a negative 3 will give us plus 3, which is 6. And negative 12 divided by 6 simplifies to negative 2. So there's our slope, negative 2. Now, these points are equally difficult or easy, however you want to look at it, but they have there isn't one that's more difficult than the other. So I chose this one just because it was the first point. Y minus the y value, which is 6, equals negative 2 times x minus the x value, which is negative 3. So y minus 6 equals, distribute, we get negative 2x. Before you distribute, though, you want to make sure you change this to positive. Negative 2 times 3 will give you negative 6. And then simplify by adding 6 to both sides, and we get y equals negative 2x plus 0, which we don't need to write. So our slope-intercept form, we have a slope of negative 2 and a y-intercept of 0. So this would begin at the origin if you were graphing it. So that is how you write an equation of a line when you're given 2 points. Okay? You can go ahead, and I'd like you to try these 4 problems, 1, 2, 3, 4. These will actually cover the section that we just went over and the previous section, 5.3a, writing equations of lines. So using the front and the back of this notes page, can you do these 4 problems? Bring these to class with you tomorrow.